Is it already 4?
Past 2 o'clock. I'm tired, y'all.
I get the joke.
Yeah,
4 minutes past 2 o'clock. Okay.
4 minutes past 2 o'clock. And now we'll have an invocation. Can I call on Commissioner Malavecca to provide us with an invocation?
All right, shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we come to you with humble hearts to say thank you for the many blessings that you continue to pour upon us. And we ask that you continue, Lord, to be a blessing upon us, our families, the employees, contractors, and all the residents of the city of Jackson. We ask for your many blessings to pour upon this city. Lord, we ask that you give us the wisdom and guidance in our decision making. Give us a spirit of service. And as we remember that you have blessed us to be vessels of this work. And Lord, we ask that you bless this meeting. We ask that you bless the conversations and deliberations that we will have today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Moving on, Commissioner Perry sent out the minutes, much lengthier than we've had, but we had a lot to discuss going through.
This is a long meeting.
It was a long meeting.
It's a 2-hour meeting.
The list last week, are there any questions? Changes, concerns with the minutes? If none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion. Approve.
Second?
Second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved.
Is there anybody online
He's trying to get on.
who is?
He's right.
So is Nathan, I believe.
This is his microphone. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give them a second before we go into the financial.
I think Jonathan Lee's going to try to get on that to 22:30.
Testing.
Somebody's there.
Or do we have to have 5 or 6?
6.
So we have it now.
Yeah.
I think we can.
Casey trying, Nathan's also trying.
We can go ahead and keep things moving, y'all. Commissioner Malavecca, back to you for the financial update.
All right. Ms. Peter, do we have the slides?
Yes.
Okay.
She got double duty.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Oh, you want the PowerPoint?
The PowerPoint slides, yes. All right, there you go. So this, these financials actually reflect numbers that through May 9th as opposed to the end of April. When I was pulling the reports, that's the date that I was running. And so our obligations for Fund 157 were at $34.8 million. And if you recall in the last meeting, we did share that there were adjustments that were made as we were cleaning up both Funds 157 and 173. And the revenues plus interest were at $39.3 million. There was a slight interest payment that came through, and that number was adjusted slightly. Expenses to date at 33.9 with an encumbrance of about 173. So that's for Fund 157, and as we go into 173, we'll Unless you have some additional comments on
Quick
157.
question. I see how the interest went up $3,000. I thought we paid everything on this. $3,000, we got $3,000 more expenses. Where would that come from?
So the bank charges.
In 1 month, we had $3,000 worth of money.
No, I think so it is a posting issue at times, if it's not posted when the report is pulled, that might not reflect. But once you pull the report, once all the expenses are posted.
Hello?
You hear us? Hello?
Nathan, can you hear us? Check him, tell him, just hold on, just try to fix my
Yeah.
phone.
What about the video?
Okay, so the $3,000 more expenses is bank charges
Bank charges, right?
for the whole year?
No, so I've got to look to see how much.
I just can't
the
understand,
total.
if we got $4 million in the bank, we're having $3,000 in bank charges.
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and unfortunately.
We should have $3,000 in interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to maintain.
And we're not writing checks on the account, I mean, it's not like we're,
It's just sitting there.
it's just sitting there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we have to maintain separate accounts.
You gotta maintain a separate account, but what's,
That bank,
how does that bank, what's the reason that bank can charge us $3,000, $4,000 a year for just holding our money in the account?
yeah.
I mean, I know, yeah, I'm asking, is there not some way to change that? Because we got 4 more years, that money's gotta sit in that account
Right, yeah.
until we,
And I know the argument will come back to say they provide an interest payment, right? So that's, yeah, anyway, that's an unfortunate situation about that.
it's more than unfortunate.
Who's the bank?
Cadence Bank. And we've actually done an RFP, so it could be possible that we change banks.
Joining the meeting.
$4 million?
But we got $4 million in the account, I mean, we got 39.3 minus 34, so we got $5 million actually.
You can't charge it. We
Nathan,
earning
can you
any
hear us?
interest?
Yeah, we are earning interest, the income went up like $2,800 this month. And the expenses went up $3,000 this month.
Yeah, but the expenses again might not only reflect 1 month, and it could be 2 months of posting. And I think we'll look at the actual ledger.
How about
Hey, this is Nathan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
He can't hear us, we're still working on that part.
Text him, say we can hear.
Text him so we can hear him.
We can hear. Okay.
Would it be possible for you to get that, figure out how many months' expenses that is?
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, we
how
can
about
look at that.
figuring out what the bank agreement is about how they can charge that kind of bank charges? I mean, I know bank charges, if you have insufficient funds and checks
Right.
right there, but just to have,
The maintenance,
just
right.
to maintain an account.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll be having these discussions, as I mentioned, we've done the RFP, and we are required to bid out the depository institution relationships, and so, again, that's a conversation that we'll have. All right, so, moving on to Fund 173. Okay, we'll give them a second to figure out the technology here. So for Fund 173, net obligations are $169.9 million. The revenues plus interest at $167 million. Expenses were at $133.6 million, and encumbrances of $3 million. And so, as I mentioned last meeting, I've been working with Commissioner Perry to clean up Funds 173 obligations. There has been extensive work being done, especially by Mr. Perry, as he has been paying the historical data from the inception of the commission. And so we have been going through the various projects to determine what ultimately will need to be obligated. In our meeting last week, I know Commissioner Perry had shared some information he found. And so what he did was he actually went back to the minutes. So from, I think, day one, started working through the minutes and comparing what had been captured as obligation and also what had been deobligated, I think, through 2018 or 19.
There's one round of the application, yes.
Right. And so there are a few questions that he's come up with, which currently in the new system, I can't pull it up from my office, and so I've asked the other finance folks that have access to the old system to pull out some of that data, which has started coming in. So Commissioner Perry, anything that you'd like to add?
There's something real quickly, I know Mr. Burner's got a short time frame here, so I don't want to spend too much time. The other thing we talked about, in addition to the obligations, there are a number of charges that have been made to the account that don't seem to be appropriate. And there's a real serious accounting question going on with the Tiger Grant on West Capitol Street, on West County Line Road, about how the reimbursements from MDOT don't seem to be there. I think there's a serious question we might need to be looking at about the accounting, particularly with the West County Line Road. Depending on what you come back and find, where what should have been a reimbursement from MDOT shows up as a charge to the account, not a deposit to the account. And so there's anywhere from a few $100,000 that were charged that was improperly charged that we know about and agree with. But the whole County Line Road grant has some serious issues that is going to take a good, hard discussion about what we're going to do to straighten it out.
Did the city pay those charges?
What the accounting records I've got from the city show that they paid all on the North State Street Tiger Grant, where they paid Hemp Hill and a check came back from MDOT, it shows up as a deposit in the account. So you paid them $1 million, $800,000 went back in. It really wanted 80-20 grant, but that's all right, we just committed $3 million to the top. But on the West County Line, if you paid T.L. Wallace $1 million and they got $800,000 from MDOT, it showed $1 million check written and it shows an $800,000 check written, not an $800,000 deposit. Which is, I handed him the whole list of them. I'll be glad to email it to everybody else if you want to try to make sense out of it. But there's a long series of things where I tell you what it looks like to me, and like I told him, if I put my tinfoil hat on, for those of you that were around here that long, the city didn't have the money for the matching funds for the Tiger grants. That's right. We agreed to put $6 million in. We arbitrarily, I just accounted 33, it doesn't really matter. In order to come up with the money, they charged those in there. We probably spent $10 million on the West County Line, and it's been hidden in the account.
It was represented as an 80-20.
The 80-20.
It wasn't an 80-20.
It was 80-20, it widened 80-20, and then they got 80-20 on the engineering, and on the Tiger grant, on the State Street grant, it does show 80-20. Every time they pay Neil Schaefer, there's an 8% deposit back for it. It was 80-20. Every time they pay Neil Schaefer over here on the County Line Road, there is no matching 80% deposit back to the account. And so it looks like we agreed to pay 20% of the engineering, we agreed to pay $6 million. It looks like we paid $10 to $12 million just on the County Line Road grant. Which it looks like to me was because they didn't have the matching funds, so they took it out of there and it's hidden in the account. It's going back into the old system. You know, if we can't get it straightened out, I'm gonna ask them to get somebody to come in here and do an audit on
Yeah, so, and I do appreciate Mr. Perry, having all that information that he's been able to share. And so there are reports that I'm requesting and, going through that. And hopefully we can report back.
Yeah, and I will say, in the meeting, Fidelis and I have had 4 meetings, I think it was last month. And the last one was last Friday.
Mhm.
Couple of, been very helpful, very cooperative, trying to figure it out, looking at it, when I show them where it is. We found a couple of things that didn't show up right. They charged this account for something that really should have been charged to another one of our accounts. I mean, he's gotta go back into the old system to find it. But I did hand him a big long list and say, somebody needs to be straightened out. We've been talking about some of them for a while. And so, the goal is, at least my goal is, by the end of the month to have answers to those. Because the city has to go to council
Right.
in June with some budget reconciliations or whatever adjustments. And that would be the time to get this straightened out with the city, is when they have to go and get council to take some action, because some of these are gonna take council action. Some of the other ones, clearly already, the charge for the 48-inch water line clearly is gonna take a council action.
Right, yeah.
Move it from the ARPA money to our account, so that, and it will affect us, not only the obligations, but where it will affect us is when we get the actual amount that's supposed to be charged there, what we can de-obligate or where they're overexpended.
Yeah, and so clearly with those, our expenses will be reduced, right? Once we assign them to the appropriate accounts.
But I'm grossly concerned about the charges on the County Line Road side of the Tiger Grant. I mean, it looks to me like several $1 million charged. Over and above what we obligated, also over and above what was actually spent on it. And I might be wrong. I'm with it. If they
Yeah,
come
I
back
think,
with- If they come back with information that shows wrong,
yeah,
I'm fine with that.
yeah. So we certainly share some updates. And I don't know, Commissioner Perry, if you wanted to briefly talk about, for instance, the $2.5 million, right, how that could end up being de-obligated.
There's several $1 million we can de-obligate on these early projects. And through 2020, we can pretty much, when we straighten out the 2 or 3 little, when Neil Schaefer was charged with Eastover water line, and should have been charged maybe the Tiger Grant. Once we get that clear, we can do $2 or $3 million worth of de-obligations on just projects through 2020. All right, let's move on.
All right, that's another report.
Does Fidelis get the benefit of before his time?
No.
But he's got to go bid in the old accounting. That project was a cluster.
It was.
From the day it was presented to
And
us
that's
to.
exactly the words he used when we were talking about those.
Yeah, I share with him, when I've looked, right, without having the context, that looks very complex.
Well, not to belabor the point, but Robert Lee sold us a bill of goods when he brought it in as an 80-20 match project, and then it was obviously much bigger.
Which kind of reminds me of the current raise grant. Why I've been taking so hard stance on the raise grant. It started off, well, we got this much, we need this much, we'll find the matching funds later, we'll do this, we'll do that. Doesn't appear to me that the matching funds were found. And we put in a fixed cost amount on it. And the 80-20 on the engineer, like I said, was probably taken care of on the North State Street one, but it's not any reflection of it over on the county line.
Isn't there supposed to be an annual audit on this anyway?
It is, but it's part of the city's annual audit, so, yeah, my impression, correct me if I'm wrong, the auditors just look at the overall books, and they don't really care. Just the amount received and the amount spent, whatever. In most cases, whether they're looking about our particular accounts, I don't think they're audited. I think it's all the public works accounts. I might be wrong. The statute calls for our books to be audited. What the city has done is given them the city audit, and ours is page 119 through 124, something like that in there.
Thank you for looking through all these numbers. And I'm sure that you guys are getting close on it. But shouldn't we get a auditor in to do this from the outside and go ahead and start looking at some options? for
Depending on
that?
what we find out, I agree with you. I think, my opinion, I gave this to them, they got, look at, the rest of them, other than the Tiger Grant, are easy things to figure out. You know, I won't answer those Tiger Grants, if we can't get it by the end of the month, my opinion, we ought to call Sheriff White, tell him to come over and look at it. Because it's not independently audited as to that grant, does it meet our minutes terms, does it meet whatever. I'm sure everything that's in there, a check was written and spent to pay somebody that meets an audit standard for the whole city audit, but I don't know that it meets the standard for our 2 or 3 accounts. I agree with you. I don't know how to do that.
I mean, we have a third party that, Wagner, that's helping us with,
That's not right.
that,
Farmer way.
that's helping us with selection of this, and then we could get a third party, couldn't we?
We could, well, we don't have,
With the phone. I don't
well,
know.
wait, the city has a third party who thinks he's setting their select with this. He's ought, in my opinion, he ought to be giving us information. The selection is still ours, just like it was when IMS tried to tell us what project we're going to do. But we're not paying him, the city paying him. The city would have to go get somebody. I don't think we have the authority to go hire somebody to do it in our book. Although, special session could, we might get that added to it. I mean, just, the question is how to get it done, you're right.
Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Alster.
I guess in the special meeting, we went through the spreadsheets. So I'm not going to go through the spreadsheet again, obviously, because of, but really what I wanted to talk is maybe start with the financial areas and maybe work backward. So there's this, smaller
Mr.
sheet.
Chairman?
Yes.
And again,
Yes,
this,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fair.
I move to table this discussion about spending the next 2 or 3 years' money today for 3 reasons. One is not our policy to do it. 2, I'm not sure there's legal authority to do it. And 3, just like in 2017. In 2017,
Joining the
when the
meeting.
consultant IMS came to us and said they want to spend the next 2 or 3 years, we said, it was in March, we said, no, there's a new administration possibly coming in, and we don't want to be committing right now what's going to be going on through a new. Now we know in 6 weeks we'll have a new administration. We might even have a public works officer, who knows. But for us to sit here and talk about spending 2026 and 2027 dollars at the end of May with the new administration coming in, just so we can fund projects. They decided they want to go advertise, and they're saying the priorities, and they're saying we'll find other money for the West Capitol. That's our job to decide the priority of projects. The consultant's job is to tell us the status of what we can do and where, and then to implement them. We're the ones that's supposed to decide what 1% money goes to. We've got some other projects than what he has over here that not in that. But as far as a program to look at spending money today, or approving the authority to go spend money today, that'd be 2026, 2027 dollars, I think is a bad policy. I also think doing it in May with the new administration coming in is wrong. I move we don't even waste time with this discussion. I move we take it.
You need a second?
There's a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
You want to?
Or, sorry, discussion.
so Mr. Chairman, can I just say something here?
Yes.
The intent of this is not to recommend anything. The intent for this exercise is to actually allow you to understand if there's deficits in funding. So you can make actually an informed decision. What you decide to do with this information, obviously is a policy decision that the 1% sales tax commission has to do. But I think there is valuable information for the commission here to actually look at a different way of looking at the financial projections, so you can actually make an informed decision.
Hey, Pete, would it be all right, I just have one specific question
Sure.
about what's being shown on here. So just, I understand what you're doing here, you're doing cash flow, sort of just best guess is how fast the project would go. Help me understand what happens in August of '26. Under this projection.
Under this projection, if you fund all those projects, you're gonna run out of money. And this is really what I wanted to show. Basically, starting in August of next year, if you fund them, you're gonna be short 1.3 million. By the end of the year, we'll be short almost $11.5 million, which tells me that you don't have enough money to fund those projects, but also you don't have enough money for any new projects that could come up.
Which is exactly why we said we're not funding all these projects that you have on the list. I mean, that's where we got to this. I mean, I understand that. We said that in February. We said that without having the spreadsheet, we knew that.
Yeah, but really the discussion that we did not have yet is, so what do we do about this? So just hear me out. You're correct, there's a new administration coming up. The city has some modernization funds that they can fund some of those projects. There is the LPA program, there is the MPO program, which is going to be call for projects going to happen in August. You all, from a policy perspective, need to say, okay, this is the type of projects that potentially we could fund. We can go to the state legislators and ask them for support as well. So you can look at it in a comprehensive way instead of being reactionary to what we're doing. So this is really the purpose of that exercise, not to try to force a new way of doing business on the commission.
I understand that. And I would certainly like to see us have some input with the city about putting this call for project for the MPO. I'm glad to hear you say you think the city might spend some of their other money, because over the last decade and a half, the city has not spent anything other than 1%. Now they've got modernization tax money, but no general fund money on any infrastructure. So I don't think going over there and asking them to do it's going to happen. Hopefully we might change that with, I don't know, but we've already, for you to say that we ought to take West Capitol Street off and fund it somewhere else, that's our decision today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if
That's
you
not
look
what
at-
your email said.
Pete, my email say this is the recommended way of doing it. It's a recommendation. This is what a consultant is supposed to do. It's supposed to recommend to the commission, and it's your policy decision to decide whether you want to do it or not. So I did not say in the email that this is the way you need to do
You
it.
said these ought to be moved over and I'll find other funding for them.
I said this is one recommendation is to do this.
I wish you'd go find other funding for a bunch of them. That's fine. I think we all agree. I think you'll agree that we can't fund all the projects you have on this list. I think what you and anybody would understand is, we've got a couple other projects that are not on this list. One of them that we talked about 2 weeks ago, we talked about in February, I think we have a moral commitment to do phase 2 of some neighborhood streets for those neighborhoods that did not have associations. When we talked about it and said, you weren't here then, but we sent things to 92 neighborhoods. I think we got it back from 60 something. But we recognized it. Now, a lot of them are in South Jackson. Quite frankly, if you look at the map, a lot of them in South Jackson. Not so much Southwest Jackson, but the other. We said, once we went through this first round, this next round we would do would be to go to those areas that didn't have them, as well as some of the larger neighborhoods where we restricted other streets. So I think we've got a commitment that we're going to probably spend $15–20 million on another round of neighborhood streets, if not more. We could make it as big as we want to. But that's not reflected in here at all. And that's got to be considered, and it's not in your number projection here either.
Absolutely, and of course, this is going to, if you add those projects, it's going to be, make it worse, but this is,
And that's
again,
because, and that's,
but this is why planning is important, and really, the 1% sales tax commission should also develop a budget for next year that looks at all the projects that you want to fund and where the funds are going to come from. So I'm with you 100%. We're not in a disagreement. I think we're saying the same thing, Pete. It's just a matter of planning for these activities, and this is a tool to get you to start planning. If you want to add projects, it's just a matter of adding them and we'll put
Well,
the
I
amount.
mentioned it 2 weeks ago.
I didn't know what the amount
Well,
was, Pete.
When you were right here, I said we got a $20 million round two, and it's still not on your sheet. And it's still not here.
You said that there's a commitment that we made. There was no dollar amount that was discussed in the meeting.
I think you go back and check the video tape. I mean, go ahead. I think we're in agreement that looking at this, we need to make a decision about which ones we want to fund and can fund and should fund now. And the question is, should fund now. Some of them, I want to fund Old Capitol Road. We ain't got $2 million. Yeah, I want to do at least, like we said last meeting, half of West Capitol Street to get rid of the one-way side. Yeah.
But Pete, this is really the type of discussions that we should have with the city, with the commission, and other funding sources. If these are priority projects that you all deem that are priority,
These are not all priority projects. These are priorities for you because you have them on your list and they're taking bids on them. There are 2 or 3 on here that we've said are not a priority, and you still are asking us to fund today.
Pete, it's not my priority.
You're asking today for funding for Alice Creek Bridge.
Okay?
We've said 2 or 3 times it's not a priority.
Peter, I think this is where the conflict is. The commission has not voted on this issue. We work
We
for
have
the
not
city.
voted,
No,
wait
just
a
a
minute, you're
minute.
correct, we have not voted,
Right.
and so today we will. We've
Okay,
said it,
so that's fine.
we've said it 3 times, that why should we?
You said it 3 times, Pete. The
There were-
commission did not
Okay.
vote on this issue because
We have not
we work for the city and the city says these are projects we want to fund. So I'm putting on the list until the decision is made by the commission. They're on the list. They were on the list before we even started, Pete. So this is why we need to go through this process. So you all can make some decisions, and whatever decisions you make, we're going to abide by it.
Pete, what was your motion again?
My motion, we put the table is put aside and move on to looking at projects.
Second.
And second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, sorry, just clarification, you're saying move on to this one?
Well,
Or-
we've got this is good information, we've got it in front of us,
Right.
that we don't need to be discussing or worrying with it and have no action to take on this.
We already discussed it, so it's for information purposes.
Okay?
Is that the same as this
Here,
here?
you want to withdraw your motion?
I can, I will.
I just think it's helpful to see, like, just a very broad brush, like where we are. This is the first time I've seen any kind of cash flow that takes into account all of the projects. And so I understand what you're saying, it's not a priority or recommendation or anything like that. It's helpful to see, it's like, we don't do something different, we don't have money
We don't
next
have a
year. Like, there's not enough money to do it.
And
So
if you're saying we need to add more projects, I mean, let us know, we'll add them. That's not gonna be a problem. So you can make informed decisions. That's really the only purpose of this document.
thank you.
Well, yeah. I think as Pete said a minute ago, the problem that we run into, especially with the transitioning administration, is it's really only been the 1% money that's been expending dollars, other than the matches or grants or MPO or, other dollars. So it's all coming through here. And we don't have an idea of what the next administration's look ahead looks like for other.
That's right.
I mean, it's like we know what the county's gonna pave before we decide what we're gonna pave. And we're always like in this tug of war, and all of a sudden they take roads that we were fixing to pave that they're paving. I mean, so it's just a lot of unknown, at least at this point in time. Not that it won't be cleared up in a few months.
And as far as this document goes, we have voted 3 different times that we're not doing major efforts, and you still put it on here, and they're taking out $300,000 a month for it. And we have voted on that. And we voted on it at the last meeting.
No, we didn't have any action last meeting.
We have
What
voted 4 times when the city's coming in and asked for it, and we said no.
What I'm saying is, it has been on the list, and since we joined
It
9
stays
months
on your
ago.
list. The city can go do it.
What I'm saying, 9 months ago, there was no votes. For the last 9 months, there was no vote in Medgar Evers. There was no vote, I'm telling you.
Maybe
We
we're
voted
not,
for anything last meeting.
We didn't have a quorum,
we did have a forum,
did we? It's really loud.
but they left, came back. We had a forum.
Discussion.
There were no votes taken last meeting.
Commission voted numerous times not taking any actions on the request from the city to have funding for all parks. He, Turk said it was on his list, about a discussion going on about how to do it, whether those discussions going to be approved by the U.S. Department of Transportation. It was said then that we voted before not to take it. Maybe we did vote on it last time, but we have voted on it. And besides, it's a $42 million project that's going to cost $22 million. You know, without knowing where the rest of the funds are, there's no even reason to consider that we're going to spend $300,000 for it.
Pete, that's what we discussed last time. We said we're gonna table it until we hear back from MDOT.
I'm just saying, I agree, move on. I'm just saying you got it on here, it's expensive, Paul, that's why we're running out of money. Because we got things on there that we're not planning on doing.
Sure.
All right, so going to the next spreadsheet, is going, I'm not gonna go through the project by project because we did this last time, spent a lot of time on this. There was several questions about bridges, and I think we sent you in the email basically the evaluation for those bridges that were done by Hines County. So you should have all this information.
That was helpful. It didn't answer my question on some of it. You gave us the evaluation of the bridge. For example, the Alice Street Bridge. It says it's closed. It said it needed to be closed and talk about it, whatever, it says it's closed. Well, can you do that? The question I was asking for is, tell us why. And on that one, we know the answer. But on Thomas Sketchings, on all these others, tell us why it's important. For example, my example, Beasley Road Bridge, it's a major thoroughfare, has school bus traffic on it, has traffic going out to the industrial park, has lots of other traffic, the traffic counts out. It's $600,000. It was going to be closed. The county came in there and shored it up and fixed it temporarily. We know where it is. We looked at it on there. It makes sense. Priority-wise, it's easy to decide whether or not to do Beasley Road. Alice Street Bridge, it didn't tell me anything about why we ought to do it. That was what I was asking. But why? Why should we spend $600,000 to do X? In the case of Alice Street Bridge or Officer Thomas Sketchings or in the rest of them. What you emailed us was the report on the bridge. My question was, what's the justification as we have to make a priority decision? Why is it a higher priority to do this project when we're comparing it to all these others?
Yeah, I mean, the information is in the report, because if you go back and look at the Alice Bridge, there's not enough traffic to actually justify it.
But that's not what you said. Tell
I
us
just
that.
said-
Tell us that.
Well-
When I ask the question, write it in there and say, we can't find a justification for this. Whatever. I mean, just, that was what I was asking for. Just tell us why the city, who's the one that brought it to us, is saying we ought to do it. And if the answer now, if we've looked at it as we ought not, tell us we ought not.
I think in comparison to other needs, this is not a high priority project.
I think I agree. All right.
So there was a bid opening yesterday, so there was 3 additional projects that we added to the list since I emailed this to you. The first one is the McDowell Road Extension. So we actually had a bid opening. We had 4 bids yesterday, and the lowest bid was $1.966 million, which is lower than the $2.4 million engineer's estimate on this. This is an 80-20 project. So this basically will look at the total MDOT federal obligations about 2.3. But regardless, although if you add the CA&I and the engineer estimate, it's still under the obligation from MDOT, but we still are committed to the 20% of those 2 numbers. I'm requesting authorization for $409,635 to pay for the 20% for the $81,940 for the CA&I and the 20% for the $1.966 million for the construction.
While I'm not objecting to that project, the fact that you received bids yesterday, I don't know that they've been analyzed. You tell us what the low bid was. Our rules are, if you haven't asked, we have to receive it by Friday before the meeting. Just come in here and send it out to us Tuesday night before the meeting, or, does not meet that. So, I would say, and I'm not rejecting that project, or the bids or anything else, I'm saying, I'd like y'all to have time to analyze the bids, see it. I don't know what the cost on them look like, or whatever else, I've never compared it, but we didn't receive it by Friday. And the last time this came up was when Nathan Wells was first on this commission, which would be Paul before you. And we voted that time, I abstained, to let it go by, because it was something that they really needed to do, and there was a time frame on it. And he said he wouldn't vote for it again. Is Nathan on? Okay. And we said, no, Friday before the meeting if you wanted to ask.
Well, thank you for letting me know, because I wasn't aware that this is
Okay,
required.
I understand.
So that's why moving forward, we'll definitely give it to you.
But still tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through those.
Yeah, but still tell us about it. I don't want to cut that off.
Yeah. So that's one, so you all wanna delay this, is what I'm hearing?
The bids plus the CNI is below the MDOT obligation.
That's correct, but you still have a 20%.
Yeah, we've got 20%.
Right, so the total, this will be 409,635. Typically, we have 60 days for the bids, and the reason we added it is because we have 60 days, so they will finish by July 13. And we have to go to the city council after you all approve it as well. So it's up to you if you want to, best on technicality, if you don't want to review it now, we can delay it at the next meeting. I'll leave it up to the commission what you want to have.
I mean, if there are some time-sensitive items that we can vote on today and they're within our budget, then let's do it. I've got to get,
Yeah, you gotta
I've got
go.
to go.
Let's move the ones we already talked about, like catchings and the rest of them, and get back to those.
Okay. The next one is the Thomas Catching Bridge. Again, we went through the details last time, but the bid came pretty close to, and we had very competitive bids, 1.67 million. We have CNI 139, so again, it's a 80-20 requirement. The federal funding is 1.38, so this leaves about 431,293 to actually fund the 20% portion for the CNI and for the construction.
Just two questions. One is, this is two bridges, right?
Two existing bridges with box culverts.
Correct.
Okay, because are either or both of them closed? Or are they weight limited?
It says they're weight limited,
But
well, at least says one of them is 3-ton weight limited.
one of them's 3 ton, okay.
I don't know about the other one.
Is the engineer good? If you don't know.
I move we obligate $435,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's rounding to 431.
Any opposed?
What do you want to do?
Motion passes for 435, 435.
435.
It's Thomas
Which is,
Catchings.
for Thomas Kitchen. I mean, that's nothing what you're saying, you need to us.
All right, the next one is also is not on the list, it's not the yellow, is the State Street, also we
How
received
about,
bid.
how about coming back to?
Oh, the ones that for
Let's do
the,
the one.
you can get the ones in the yellow
Yellow
and they
now,
come back
please.
with others. No problem. So the next one is Beasley Road,
I move we do not do the right-of-way. We've objected to doing the right-of-way. We've never done right-of-way. We can't do legal fees. That's been decided. I move, and the city's already gotten approval for spending $10,000 on that. I move we don't do it. Since it takes a motion saying no, we basically said no at the last meeting. So this is to buy a right-of-way for the sidewalk. It's not for the whole project. It's just
Oh, that's the Beasley Road.
Beasley Road, Highland Park intersection. You weren't here for the discussion last week.
I have a motion to not approve funds for the acquisition of right-of-way and legal fees.
That we will not, on this project, because it's true on other projects, not pay that because it's for right-of-way acquisition and legal fees.
Do I have a second?
We're saying that's because that's outside of the scope of.
It's outside the scope of what the statutory. Legal fees are clearly outside the scope. They've already approved 10,000 of the 17,000, so it's really just 7,000 to buy one parcel, because the city's already voted on the 10,000 2 months ago, and we don't do right-of-way acquisition. So I think
In my discussion with Terry, he said that there was a precedent on Capitol Street, you actually pay for acquisition services, for buying,
not that we knew about it. They might have done it, but we didn't know about it. There was a lot of things on Capitol Street spent that we didn't approve. There was an awful lot of stuff spent on Capitol Street, that we didn't approve, like $2.5 million worth.
I mean, to me, right away, I mean, the legal fees, if it's statutory, you can't do it, you can't do it, but right away is really an incidental part.
I still say, I'm still voting against it. The motion still did not do it.
Motion
I
is,
mean, as far as the legal fees to do the right-of-way acquisition, I mean, that's part of the project. I mean,
I would disagree, but that's thank you.
that's part of the
My
project.
motion still stands.
is there a second?
Does anybody want to move to make, to pay
It's
it?
not illegal.
No, I mean, I'll second it. I wasn't here for that discussion, but I'm happy to second.
I have a second. Any further discussion to not approve right-of-way acquisition and legal fees?
It's $19,000, yeah.
And just for clarity, because I'm hearing from legal departments that it's not illegal.
It's not illegal. I mean, if the commission chooses to fund it or not to choose it, that's their decision. But you know, it's not because it's illegal. It's an illegal expenditure. That's not accurate.
So we have a different opinion.
That's inaccurate,
Ask for an AG's
Mr. Mayor.
opinion. Still, a tough question.
And once you get a legal degree, then maybe we can discuss it.
I don't have one, but I can read.
All right, let's stay on topic.
As I testified before. In court.
No further discussion? All in favor?
Jonathan
Oh.
is tagging in. We still have a quorum.
Okay,
I've got a meeting.
you gotta go.
Jonathan, we can
Thanks,
see you.
Jonathan.
What time is it?
Yep, I'm here.
2:52. So let me take that again. I had I.
Aye.
Okay.
4.
And you have no.
All opposed.
All opposed?
One opposed.
Motion carries.
The next project is the Beasley Road Bridge. Again, we opened the bids on March 18th, and we wound up extending the bids through the middle of June to allow us to make decisions on this. So the bid amount came actually a little bit under the engineering estimates, 544,505, and CNI is 101, so a total of 651,041. Or I guess you want to make it
One question,
500%.
one question.
Sure.
This one and a couple others, where there were two bids, and Key was way high above the others. Anybody got any idea if Key was giving them legitimate bids and they're just filling in something up before we move forward?
No, actually, we've been getting some good bids.
I mean, but there were three of them where there were two bids and they were way high over the others. Anything looking at the bids didn't make some kind of sense. I mean, I know Key doesn't go out looking for work, cheap work, they do it. I'm just comparing, just when there's just the two bids, it's hard to make a comparison.
Yeah, I mean, typically, contractors don't want to waste their time putting a bid just for the sake of putting a bid.
I move we approve
55?
I'd rather round it
What's the
down.
amount that you want?
I'd rather round it down, but make it $652,000.
$652,000.
It does?
It does.
It does, okay, I'll second it.
What?
Seconded by,
The 651, I forgot, it includes also the 5,000 for the utility relocation.
Okay. It does include.
It does include it, correct?
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next project is Northwest Industrial Park and Beasley Road. We also had very competitive bids on this. The lowest bidder was 1.635 million compared to engineer estimate of 233. And then also we add the CNI of 142,000, adds up to requested authorization, 1.777 million.
Mr. Alturk, this is the one I know we discussed last month that's up for possible consideration by the legislature. Is that what, that is the extent of what we discussed last?
Well, we don't know that it's up for consideration. We know it was on the city's wish list
Got you.
where the local delegation, the city's asked the local delegation, they asked to put it in. And if they have a special session, the argument about whether they're going to have a Christmas tree bill for the local project or not is to be hung up. But it's still out there hanging as a potential issue, yes.
So we were able to extend the bids until early July. So if you want to delay it,
I move, I
if you
think,
want to delay it till next month,
yes, no motion, just let's move on.
Yeah.
what were you saying?
Well,
No motion, we're just going to move
Move
on.
it till
No
next
action.
month.
Yeah, move to next month.
Yeah.
We're not saying yes, no, or anything, we're just not doing anything.
Hopefully they'll have legislative, or they have to have a session sometime in June.
Maybe.
Well, they don't, it's not going to be funded, so we'll know. The next one is Gallatin Street, McDowell Road. Again, the bids came significantly lower on this. Engineer estimate 1.3 million, the bids came at 777. And you add to it the CNI of 116, this is a total of 894,000 requested authorization.
Do I have a motion to,
This one that we approved, is this one we've been asked for?
what you said?
Is this one that we have been told we were going to be asked for?
Gallatin? No.
One of my question about, get the proper notice.
This was not a new, or
No. We just said that it was going to be open. There was discussion a long time ago about this one, where the county's building that jail down there, and all this equipment, construction stuff they have in this. It comes in and out of the south side of the jail, out of Henry Young, is that the name of it?
the detention center?
Yeah, I never had the opportunity to spend the time there, so I'm not sure Henry Young. And whether, this was actually raised by the contractor on the jail back when you were talking about doing, whether it made good sense now to build it or not while they were doing that. I don't know where they are with the construction of the jail. I mean, I don't know whether the heavy, whether
Do you know the status of the construction of the jail?
the heavy equipment's through going in and out of, I mean, David Marsh, Benchmark, it just said something about it one time when you heard we were talking about it. with all the work that they were doing there with the tear up the road once we built it. I don't have any idea if that's an issue or not.
You don't wanna build the road and then come back and
Have to rebuild the road.
rebuild it again.
But that was what David was, I mean, I thought we put it on hold because of that, which was before your time. But I thought we'd put it on hold because we were going to let them get some of the construction out of the way before we went and rebuilt the road. But we went ahead and took bids for it anyway. So, I mean,
That makes sense.
Can we just authorize this based on evaluation of it, because the bid's gonna be expiring in the next couple of months?
couple of months,
I mean, we opened the bids on April 29th.
well, if it's got a month.
We can do it next month.
Why don't we take a little time and do
Yeah,
some,
we'll check on.
do some
so you wanna
investigation,
see-
find out what's going on with the jail and all that, just,
Yeah, and we'll bring it back.
yeah, I mean. All I remember was our early discussion about it, I don't know.
We need a status update on the jail first.
Yeah.
Before making a
Yeah.
decision.
Jail construction schedule, what all they're doing, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll table it to next
Okay.
month. The next one is the West Capitol Street, from Prentice to Gallatin. Again, I think we discussed this last time. This is actually to do a road diet, and
The $150,000 you're asking for is,
it's for changing the design to remove all of the traffic lights, replacing them with roundabouts, and remove all the water and sewer.
it's an amendment to the engineer's contract for design.
That's correct.
It's not a 1% contract. It's being paid for by modernization tax. So this $150,000 ought to be coming from modernization tax, not from 1%, because it's not our contract for doing the engineering anyway, which is what we said last meeting. But it's a modernization tax. Robert Lee went and gave that contract to whoever it is, and came and told us he already contracted for it outside. So it's not, since the basic contract being paid for something other than 1%, I don't know what the amendment ought to be paid for about 1%. My opinion.
I agree.
For that purpose, not dealing with the project, dealing with a $150,000 request, I move that we reject it because it's not appropriate 1%, it's a modernization expense, and Public Works and the city and everybody ought to work that out. Go get the engineering contract done, fix it, change it, get rid of those things. It's taking out the utilities and traffic lights and everything else.
So is this, just out of curiosity for future things, so if the city pays for the design, you would not pay for the construction, or this is?
No.
You're fine?
We could still pay for the construction.
Okay.
Yeah, modernization could pay for the construction, we could do it, we could split it with them, whatever. But because, I mean, they could come in and say, we got the design work done, here it is, we want to do construction, we want to talk about 1% doing construction, we can definitely do that. I'm just saying, you've got an existing contract with Crown that modernization funds are paying for. To amend it, you ought to use modernization funds. Hell, if nothing else, I think the county would want it that way. Just for figuring out
Yeah.
what you're paying for their doing.
So you want me-
I've got a motion to strike this. Do I have a second?
To strike it?
To strike the payment of request for $150,000 for the engineering contract, which already exists under the modernization.
Yeah, second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's been struck.
The next one is the Dixon Road Bridge. This is a new MPO project that the city was awarded for 80/20 requirement. So this is just requesting the design for $120,000. The application design fee was $165, and we were able to negotiate it with Pickering for $126.50. So requesting authorization to move forward with the design services.
I drove down Dixon Road and tried to figure out which one of those bridges it was. Am I correct? Is this one weight limited? I think it was a 6-ton weight limit, but does anybody know?
It is 6.
You say it is?
Yeah,
What?
it is.
It is.
And it's ranked as a poor need replacement in the evaluation that was done.
There's a bunch in the city that need replacement. I want more than that. Yeah. I think there's 100 in the city that need replacement. We don't have enough money to do all 100 of them. That's why I want more than just that. Right.
I don't have a motion on this.
I'm trying to get to the
Truck cannot drive on that,
location here.
on those bridges. Truck cannot drive on that.
Right.
You asked for 126.50, but you said you negotiated down to 118,500.
Yeah, well, we added $2,000 for hydraulic modeling that they came back. So the design was 118, and we added the $2,000. We got it.
If you don't give us those numbers, tell us that too. So I want to ask questions.
I should have
It's
just changed
limited,
it from the.
it's limited to 6 tons.
Okay, that's the one
Yeah.
there's one out there that's limited to 6 tons, I saw that one.
It's a very short,
It's a short,
bridge right
short
there, yeah. Yeah, limited, that's what's posted there in the street view anyway.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is not a good valid way to do it, because 2 bridges that we replaced 2 years ago still have the sign up saying it's got a weight limit on it.
Yeah.
So you put a sign up with a weight limit. We replaced the bridge and built a new one. McClure Road Bridge is one of them, I forgot the other one, but the sign is still up saying it's weight
We're
limit.
just extending the line.
Somebody ought to go take down the sign.
County says
Any action on Dixon Road Bridge? I'll make
How
a,
time sensitive is that?
I mean, we have obligation deadlines that we have to get started with those projects.
I'll make a motion to approve $120,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The McClure Road Bridge is the same issue really with the.
No, that one's really not. I can't figure that one out. Which bridge is it on McClure Road? I couldn't tell by trying to click on,
the small one.
I didn't get this till yesterday, and then trying to click on it, I couldn't figure out which one it was. The small one is a $1 million bridge. If we just did Beasley Road, that's 32 feet long for 600, how can this one, if it's the small one, be $1 million? Just asking.
So there are a couple of them,
There are a couple of them, yeah.
there's 3 of them on the list here.
This note over here says it will replace the temporary relief bridge located just east of the concrete bridge. And the concrete bridge I could find is trying to find the next one. But there's a little small one, but I can't imagine how we could spend $1.5 million. Because it looks like it's 19 feet long and 2 lanes wide.
We'll give you the exact location.
Well, how about having somebody come tell us about why? I mean, the location, I found it, I'm just trying to figure out how can it be $1.5 million bridge?
I mean, the number came from somewhere. Do you know if they put together a projected bid tab or something, like, you know?
No, this is.
Cost estimate?
Robert came up with the estimate and put it in the application.
I asked where all this came from, and my friend Ahmad said they went and found, and there's nothing to find about where all these estimates that go into these MPO estimates.
No, actually, we found it.
You did?
Terry called Robert, and we got copies of the estimates.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so what do you do to make the estimate? I mean, is it on the back of an envelope, or is it?
No, actually, it was in the application itself.
Spreadsheet.
There was a spreadsheet that details it.
It's a detailed spreadsheet.
Okay,
So, just for clarity, there is an itemized cost estimate that it was just generated by Robert?
Robert prepared as part of the application.
Okay. Awesome. Is that,
but compare, look at that Dixon Road Bridge,
oh,
and look at this one. You just looked at them on the map.
hmm.
How can that Dixon Road Bridge, which is both wider and longer, cost the same as this one?
Well, that's what I wanted to
Yeah, that's what you're
The
asking.
cost estimate's the fastest way to be like, oh.
Yeah,
this
can
is
you give us
reasonable
a-
or not,
yeah.
so. If you had, I mean, if that's available, I'd love to see
We'll
it.
go back to
Yeah,
that.
that'd be fantastic.
But those bridges have federal funding, so it's not, we pay.
So did the Greenwood Bridge, and we decided not to do it because we said just because the feds gave money for it, if it's no use for the bridge, we don't need it. I mean,
Understand, yeah, understand.
having federal funding is one good answer, but, Mr. Engineer from Flowood, have y'all ever turned down federal funding on a project?
It has happened in the past. We don't like to send it back.
It has happened in the past. There are times
We
that you
do
do.
sometimes. Yeah, so
I
that
mean, I'm not against it, I just got questions about it.
So when it does come time for construction on the Dixon or the McClure or any of them, is that ERBR funding and that's an
No.
80?
No, this is
These are
80/20,
MPO funding.
but it's not the ARPR,
Okay,
These are MPO funding.
okay.
but it's still
Yeah. The
80/20.
only
I see
ERBR,
that now. I should look in the column. I'm
the only
sorry.
ERBR we have is the Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther
Right.
King, yeah.
I got you. Okay.
So you all want to table this one until next month?
So you can give us some information about it.
All right, the last one on this list is the overlay of McDowell Road from Raymond to Suncrest. Again, this is also a new MPO project that was funded. So the total project funding from MDOT is about 2.7. And the design fee is $235,000. So requesting authorization to move forward with the design of this.
I'm moving to approve $235,000.
How much did you say?
$235,000.
Second.
Sorry, a round number.
We have a second?
Can I just ask a brief question?
Yes.
This is for Wagner to get it all the way through approval in the MPO process?
Yeah, to
Is
go,
that right?
go through, this include the environmental, include basically the bidding
This is
process.
to get it authority
To
to,
construction,
through,
all the way to construction.
Yeah,
authority to advertise from
that's
the
correct.
MPO.
Which I think is true for, same question would be applied to
For all of them.
what we just did with those
I just want to
bridges.
make sure that,
Yeah.
because, you know, going through the MPO process is
Yeah,
arduous.
yeah. Good question.
Any further discussion? All in favor of $235,000 for this project?
Aye.
So now you want to go back to the other projects?
Any opposed? Okay.
Want to go back to the other?
I'd like to hear about it, but I'm going to object to voting. But I would like to, but it's a good time to go ahead and tell us about it.
So the McDowell Road, I think I already mentioned this. Is there any further discussion of the McDowell Road?
That's the section which.
That's
Raymond Road is the same.
from Highway 18 to Raymond Road.
That's a That's, okay, the bids were,
The bids were lower than the engineer's estimate. The engineer's estimate was 2.4, the lowest bid was 1.96. And we got 4 bids on this. The lowest was APAC at 1.966, the highest was 3.1 million. So it was a good range, and then 2 of them were around 2
and
million.
the bids were received yesterday.
Yeah. Right, yesterday.
I still want to put it off, because I'd like y'all to analyze the bids more than 12 hours worth. But I would like to see it in the next meeting. State Street,
State Street from Tan Creek to Kansas City Southern. The bid, lowest bid was Hemphill at 1.596. And then the CNI, what we had as the initial budget, but actually what MDOT negotiated was about 243,302. So this would bring authorization of about 657,212.
and that one's the one out of the 4 MPO projects we got where we're not cost sharing CDNI.
That's correct. The CNI is,
Okay, so it's gonna cost, you're asking for how much for CNI and construction?
total is 657,212.
And that is for 1/4 of a mile of road. It's from the railroad to the liquor store. The bridge right before the liquor store. It's 2/10 of a mile. Actually, it's 1/5 of a mile.
Seems like a lot.
Seemed like, but the 635 seemed like a lot to me. The and 8 seemed like an awful lot to me. You know, while we applied for that section, of course, we didn't have any input in that, but while we applied for that section rather than the section just north of it, where there are a lot of businesses and the road's in worse shape, doesn't make good sense to me. I wish we could transfer that MPO money north, flip it to the other side of the railroad. Can we just do it and not tell them?
I think that's frowned upon.
I wish it's that
The
easy.
motion is up to you to make.
To come visit you.
But you can apply for that portion next
I'm not the
time.
one that signs the checks, I would be the one going to jail. Talk to Fidelis.
Don't break me into this.
I mean,
Of course, this also include the,
we've already paid $200,000 for engineering. All total, we'd be spending $2 million to do 2/10 of a mile of road. We're gonna move it to the next meeting anyway. I'm just saying, it's food for thought for people to think about on that one. I mean, I didn't make a motion on it, I'm just objecting to it, bring it up now. And the bid was just received yesterday, so we've got plenty of time. But, and if you try, I mean, it's not that bad a section of the rest of it.
hopefully with the missing links, you'll have all of State Street fixed.
If we had this, which is what I've been telling people for 2 years since we got that approval. I said, from Briarwood
I agree with you.
to the railroad was gonna be redone. Except that little bit of section in front of the UMC. I said, with what we did there, here,
All of it
here.
will be done.
But then I found out it's not that section. We're skipping that section and going down here.
So when we look at, start doing the planning, we need to add that section.
Well-
So that's really part of the reason
Well,
for
I
this
thought we
discussion.
had added that section, but that's not what Public Works did. That granted, that would make good sense, but I would rather see us apply for MPO funding for Old Capitol coming down some section.
We can do this in August.
Yeah, I know, there's a.
So that would make more sense.
Okay.
No, Capitol Street, the old Capitol Street,
Yeah.
which is where CCID is stopping.
Mhm.
If we came from there down, look, we've done from the Picket Pike north to Shepherd, then from Shepherd up to Briarwood. That area through Finder's gotten done. We did north side, Woodrow Wilson to Fortification. CCID doing from Fortification to Capitol. All that section been done in the last 7 years. Now we're skipping this section. we want to go do this 2/10 of a mile, we ought to be doing that section right in there. That's where, I don't know why we applied for the other end. That-
It was probably, maybe the cost was too prohibitive. I
Don't know if
I
he-
don't know what Robert rationale.
Well, based on this section of road being $2 million, which is this small section, who knows what it costs to do from Capitol Street down.
Well,
I mean, what's driving the cost? I mean, Southern's here, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's driving the cost? Why is it one, you know, we're talking about how expensive it is, what's?
You talking about our job?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
wait, move over here.
He's coming.
Okay.
I understand what I'm saying.
Now, I just want to, where we can hear you.
Jim Stewart,
Okay.
Southern Consultants. Of course, you know, obviously Robert, you know, like we talked before, Robert picked all these sections. And this does start at the railroad and goes down to the bridge, downtown Creek Bridge. The first block down to Rankin Street, it gets total reconstruction, a new curb on both sides, aprons and all that. So that's part of this cost. This is not a simple overlay because we're rebuilding that part of it.
When you say
From
total
there-
reconstruction, tearing out the road and putting in.
No, I mean, no, I'm talking about the curb sides.
Just the curb
We're
side.
gonna build and do base repairs and all that stuff in the street, but if this had been a simple overlay, then without changing the curb, taking those curbs out and aprons out, the street doesn't drain, it's flat, going north to south, not this way, but this way, it's north to south, it's flat, and all the drains or inlets, pipes stopped up, and so we designed it to have some grade in it so it'll drain and get off. And so that's why the cost is what it is. We thought it might be higher than that. And I believe the LPA guy would tell you back there that it's a good number, what we've got. Now, I agree, you know, it's a lot of money for a quarter of a mile, or, I mean, for,
I mean, might be a good number, it's a good
Right.
question to ask. $1.7 million would do.
oh, yeah. Well,
Chad, how much would $1.7 million do in neighborhood streets?
I wouldn't do several miles.
So, right.
I don't know, that makes sense, but,
Yeah, a few miles.
but, yeah, but this State Street looks quite wide.
Oh, yeah, it's wider,
Yeah.
but we're replacing curbs on a lot of those neighborhood streets too.
Well, and according to intersections and stuff like that, I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
But then some of them's open ditch too, right? So that's pretty cheap.
Some of them's open ditch.
That's when it gets pretty cheap.
Yeah,
It's
but
open ditch.
we're spending several $1 million just on curbs right now.
It will be up to you all, you know, obviously it will be, but yeah, that's, you know, we had told, we thought it might be as much as $1 million, but it's only 650
Yeah.
something, but that's still 650.
It's better
You guys
when you and I
got-
talked about it.
It's better, yeah, it's better than when we talked about it, yeah, so it is, and you know, but, if you got any questions about it, but that's a simple fact, is, you know, south of Rankin Street, it's just, we're gonna redo it and restripe it and all that, and repave it and all that, and mill down and whatnot, but.
It's building an overlay and then replacing the curb in that section that's already got curb.
Yep, that whole section there through
You're
Rankin.
saying sidewalks,
Oh, yeah,
You gotta take that out because we gotta raise and lower the curb grades, so we have to take out a portion of the sidewalk behind it.
yeah.
Not the ADA.
Yeah, you know, in front of the old dealerships and stuff,
Yeah.
the sidewalk went all the way back to the building.
Because we're right.
So we'll have to break part, or cut part of that out and then tie it into the right slope, so.
Yeah.
And another cost is we have to take out all the inlets because MDOT won't let us use the city frames anymore, the cast iron frames, so we gotta take out all the inlets, like rebuild SS2, re-pour those. And also we're doing like, we're gonna take out all the manhole covers, replace every manhole cover, every water valve cover, all of that stuff's coming out, so you'll have
how many manholes are in 2/10 of a mile?
17.
17 manholes in 2/10 of
Yeah,
a
and
mile?
not all sewer necessarily, but there's
There's
all.
water, there's drainage and
Yeah.
sewer, and there's a water, the 16-inch water line at Rankin has a valve, master valve right there. So it has, there's 17 manholes.
All right, so I think you told us why it costs so much, now the question is it worth that much?
Which is a better question to be asking than
Yeah.
just why,
I mean, that's
why is
good.
it so much?
I heard Buck answers to why it's so much now.
Well, he talked about analyzing, we have the bid tab right here. So, I mean, it's, you know, we were compared it to other things we've done and whatnot. Of course, everything costs more than it did 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 2 years ago.
How many bids you get on?
We only got one on this.
Okay.
Now, see, that's the thing about it now. McDowell extension,
You got four.
that was all a paid job,
Yeah,
okay?
got paper.
You got four bidders? Did Hemphill bid it?
No.
No, they didn't even bid it.
No.
So, anyway, that's what it is.
Same thing
You
with
know, we're dealing
West Concord, yeah. I was-
with these city streets and whatnot, when you got all the curb and gutter, you're gonna be Hemp Hill and maybe give it somebody else, but most of the time you don't.
Yeah, and of course, this came like 450,000 under your estimate.
Yeah, I can't run the estimate because we wanna
Well,
make
let's,
sure.
let's do it the other way. How much over Robert's estimate is it? What we
his-
apply for?
His original.
That's right.
He had a million too.
He had a million.
300,000.
He had 1,128,000 what he had to start with,
Okay,
and then 220, and then a 20% match on top of that, so it's over about what, $1.5 million? 4 something, yeah. So,
478.
anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Can I ask a completely unrelated question, or do we need to talk about that anymore? All right, so I drive through Bellhaven pretty regularly. I texted you to ask a question
Yep.
about it.
That's on Chaz when we get to him.
Okay,
We got 4 or 5 of those questions.
okay, then I will hold mine.
Hold yours. I know where it's going.
Yep.
Jonathan's got questions too.
The last project we got bid on yesterday was Pete's favorite project, the Smallwood Bridge, which
I believe
we
I
talked
believe-
about. You going to be talking to the county about this.
Well, first off, you got to say, I move we take Smallwood Bridge, Shaw Road Bridge, and Alice Road Bridge off this list. Smallwood and Shaw, because the county has said they were gonna do them. The county's said that Lewis Wright told them we were gonna do them. Supervisor Evers said if they found out the city's not gonna do them, then they would bring it back up. We discussed this in December, in January, in February, and at the meeting 2 weeks ago. So because you want a motion saying it, I move that we take it off this list and let it sit.
Pete, then we talk, what I had in the notes here, what we discussed last time, is that we're going to talk to the county on both Smallwood and Shaw Bridge to
I
see
did.
if they will do it.
No, that's not what we said.
Yeah,
No,
it's-
no, the answer was, I would tell them that we're not doing it, not see if they were gonna do it, that I would tell them that we voted that we weren't doing it. That was what we decided, because I'm not asking them whether to do it. I asked them, along with Lewis Wright, in April of last year, and that's when they said they'd do it. And I've asked them again 2 or 3 times, and so everything was all set until somebody went and told them we're gonna do it. It's not a question of asking now. My motion is that we take it off this list. Because then the county will know that we're not gonna do it despite what Lewis Wright went and told them we were gonna do. We're telling them, no, it's not on the list for funding. Now, if the city wants to fund it from somewhere else, I can't speak to that, but my motion is there.
I have a motion to move these 3 projects off the
But
list.
let's do 2 and 1, because Alice is a different issue.
Okay.
I did say Alice, but I'm gonna take
You
Alice
just
out.
say so you're amending your motion just to,
I'm making a motion to take Smallwood and Shaw off these lists, because the county had said they were gonna do it. They took bids on Smallwood, and everything was set for them to do it. They took it off the agenda because they were told that the city was gonna do it, the city had money in place, and had contracts underway, and that was in January. And I've got a transcript of that board meeting of February the 3rd. You can go in there and listen for yourself about what 3 different supervisors said in that meeting. So, because they said the reason they took them off their agenda was because they were told that we were gonna do them. I'm saying we're gonna tell them, no, we're not doing them.
I have a question, because I did see a note here where you say Pete and the city will talk to the county. Has there been any conversation that you? maybe
Yeah,
aware of?
my recollection was after the meeting, Pete.
I told the county that we voted again, no, that we said again that we weren't gonna do it. We didn't vote last time. We took no official action at the last meeting. But I have told them that.
Hmm.
you man, what were you saying?
What I'm saying, my recollection was that Pete and Lewis were going to meet with the county to discuss both the projects.
No.
That's my recollection from your
What
discussions after the meeting.
what I said in the meeting was for Public Works to go tell them and correct any misunderstanding they had. After the meeting, Lewis called, stood me outwards and said, well, you go tell them. I said, I'll be glad.
Yeah, you told me
And I
that's
did.
what I'm saying.
So if we remove these from the list, I'm not exactly sure how a motion works to remove something from a list, but I hear what you're saying, what you're trying to do. So I'll support the motion, but I do, if the bridges need to be fixed, we need to figure out a solution to the
They've
thing.
been voting for 5 years.
Yeah.
But we approved money for engineering 5 years ago. They awarded an engineering contract 1 year ago. So the city evidently didn't think it's bad rush because they took 4 years to do it. I agree with you about that, but everything was going along fine and doing, and Deborah Dixon wants to build them. And the only thing stopping it was they were told that the county, the city's gonna do it. I don't care about taking it off the list, but evidently that's what it takes to convince Mr. Al Turk from keeping on putting it on there, bringing it back up. I'll leave it on the list if you just say don't bring it back. I'm saying, we're making a motion saying we're not funding those so that the city, county will have a definitive answer that despite what some individual might say, that we have said we're not funding them.
In light of clear communication, I think I can second that motion.
Which motion do we have now?
Motion to remove Smallwood and Shaw Bridge to take them off the list of consideration for funding by.
Okay, I was hearing a couple things discussed there, and I have a second. All in favor of removing these two projects from the list? Unanimous, carries.
I move that we take Alice Street Bridge off this list because it's $600,000. It's not a priority compared to the other expenses we need. That's not to say we might not ever go do it. But I will say again, I think the people down there on that street, those neighboring streets, would much rather see us spend $600,000 repaving those streets than replacing that bridge.
I'll second that motion. Did you make a motion?
Yes, you
I'll
did.
second.
Any further discussion about removing Alice Street project from the list? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Abstain. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank
And to your point, it's not to say we can't put things back on the
That's-
list or revisit them.
Oh, yeah.
That's my point. I just want
Yeah, I mean,
Like we're
we
cleaning
can
up.
bring anything up anytime.
Thank you all.
Jeff, you didn't ask to vote on, I need to.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We have one quick thing we need, Chad. Yeah. We need a discussion about 1A, 1B, and 1C. But don't we need some money on 1A?
Yes, well, there's ran some numbers, and there's gonna be estimated about $1 million overrun on 1A based on from the bid and the change order. Part of it is base repair overruns. There was a lot of cases where there was no indication of a base failure, and we would mill it, and after the milling, it would show up. And then some of it was just in the change order and kind of a rush to get that change order done with all those streets. I underestimated some of the area to be paved and therefore milled as well. And it's we're coming out to, and then there's just been some added areas of adjacent streets or streets, side streets that connect two parallel streets we were already doing, and so I wasn't sure how much this commission allocated in the originally, I wasn't sure, but I guess before the next payout, I think additional funds are going to be needed to be allocated.
So you
So
had,
Chad, that is where you didn't provide this to the city yet, right, for review?
No.
I mean,
But I think it's very premature.
well, maybe so, but here's, Chad called me, asked me about this the other day, and I told him I didn't know how this process really worked. When we've gone through this a couple times, the orange cone streets, where we had a bunch of streets, and we added some, there was a shortage one time, and we added some, and then put some more, because they're all unit quantities, unit cost streets. Yeah. Where sometimes we put in some extra money for them, like we did on Riverside or whatever. I don't know whether we had to obligate more money now or whatever, but the issue is, we don't need them to stop money. We don't need to be where we were on West Capitol Street, where the contractor didn't, where the city didn't have in the budget authority to pay the next estimate, so they say we're gonna quit working.
is that where we are in the process? So you said, so we did an additional change order, and that was a change order to add streets?
Wait, no.
Yeah.
On 1A, originally, we had a bunch of streets, Hibbett Hill, made a mistake in his conversation with Jackson Water, and took 10 streets off, misunderstanding what Jackson Water was saying. But we said, hey, if Jackson Water didn't say that, put it back on. They came to us and changed some street traffic signals to a different kind of traffic signal, put those 10 streets back on. Then we had another change order to say, no, we intend to fix all these curb and gutters. And had a big change order for fixing the curb and gutters, and at that time added 2 little short streets of Avondale and whatever.
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne. And so we've had 2 change orders, and we had about $11 million.
Yeah, the
The
total,
way Jonathan wants to be.
Yeah, but didn't we said there were some adjacencies that were added too?
There-
Because they were there already.
There are a couple of adjacent streets that were added, yeah.
All right, and the work has been primarily done?
yeah, the work, it's about 85 to 90% complete.
Yes.
And right now, based on my numbers, it's about 300,000 left.
So man, here's what I want to ask. I think what our issue is to say, we want to see all this completed. When you get through, come back, tell us what it is, and they might come back and say, we need to obligate another $800,000, then you gotta go to a final change order with the city. I think we can take the action later if you tell me the city can do that.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
He said the city had reviewed it.
Okay.
The process is, and Chad really should have known this, they're supposed to be going to the city, their contractors with the city, to actually say that we have these issues here, but the work is done. So this is, we're really going through the quantity adjustments.
Not all the work's done.
Okay, but
Well, it's almost 90% of it complete. So this work that he's gonna be asking for another $1 million is mostly complete.
okay, whoa. What I hear is there's a certain amount that's been budgeted, and there's gonna be a pay app that's gonna come that's gonna be more than the amount of money that's been set aside.
Yes.
The city's not gonna be able to pay that pay app because there's no authorization to pay that pay app.
You have to go through a change order.
That's the, you're gonna have to do another change order before you do your final
Okay, but
quantity
here's-
adjustments.
I agree, but here's the question. You gotta do a change order. Is the proper thing for us to do now, for us to obligate up to another $1 million?
Well, I'm not gonna take a change order over to the city council without.
It's not about the 1% of the city
I'm
council.
not talking about the city council. In order to take a change order to the city council, you gotta have an obligation from us.
That's right.
I think that's what we've done in the past.
And so what I think the action is, we're willing to obligate another, and I'm making up numbers here, another $1 million. And then when you get through the project, you turn in all the final pay estimates, and
Do a
it took,
summary
and
change
it took
order.
$850,000, that additional $1 million.
Did you
And
obligate?
then you take that to do a change order to the city council. Because you got to
No,
obligate.
But there's, okay, if there's not gonna be another pay app before the final payment,
Yes, it
you
will.
can do that. But there's gonna be another pay application, is what I'm hearing. And that pay
But we're not
application
gonna
is
approve-
gonna exceed the amount of the contract. And you can't pay it.
We're not gonna approve a payout that is not within the contract.
So you're gonna have to do a change order and then
A final
And
a
then a
final
change
summary
order.
change
They got
order. You have to do two.
There's a payout, you have a current payout that's not been approved yet.
No,
So the final payout, I mean, they're gonna be through in the next couple of weeks, right?
no, probably in the June, probably.
Okay, 3 weeks.
So it could, so there would be a payout for May and then a final payout is what I'm
And there's
projecting.
a payout for May, will it exceed what they have money for?
Yes.
All right, question. Let's say that payout is $800,000, and you got $600,000 there. You could go ahead and pay them $600,000 of that $800,000 payout, because you got that much money to throw.
No.
You could, okay.
No, you gotta pay, they could submit a $600,000 payout, and we could pay $600,000.
That's right. You have to get them to adjust their payout to stay within the
That might be
contract.
the easier way, I don't care how y'all do it. All I want to do is be able to say, if we need to take an action in order to finish the entire project, if we need to take an action, I think we ought to do it. We've done this on others like this. So I'll take advice from anybody about how we go about doing it.
My first concern was, when I realized it, was that, okay, well, the commission needs, there's not enough funds. I don't think y'all obligated in the beginning. You didn't do any additional, which you should have. And so, yeah, and so that's why I called you to talk about it at this meeting, and yes, I know there'll have to be a change order.
So really, we need to have a change order with justification why they want it. So
We have to review
we
it.
can review it,
We have to review it.
and then we'll make a recommendation to the commission of what's needed. The question is, can this wait until the June meeting, or do you have to have it now?
Well, he's got a name.
Well, it would,
He said the next pay app was gonna be.
when the contractor submits their pay app at the 1st of June,
Two of them.
this is May, right? Yeah, the 1st of June.
I think we go ahead and make the
There's
application.
only,
and then work this
according to
out.
my calculations, there's about 350,000 left.
Sure.
And their pay app will, I'm sure, be more than that. I don't know how much.
You can do it.
Here's my suggestion. I think we as a commission ought to approve an obligation and let them figure out how the hell to get it taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my goal, was to
Make the
I would
motion.
agree. That's a-
All right, so what's the
I would
number?
Exactly agree.
Yeah, what's the number?
Why don't you just stay up to a million, you're gonna be
No,
covered, but
well,
you don't need to be coming
No,
back.
but we're gonna obligate $1 million, additional dollars, not up to,
Okay.
because whatever's left over, we'll de-obligate after it's over.
All right, I'll make that motion for $1 million additional be added from the 1% to cover the increases in the 1A contract.
On the one that-
I'll second
that.
left over.
Any
Yes.
further
Gotta
discussion?
figure out how to.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right,
Carried.
That was,
Thank you.
Cheers, you've got.
All right, in 5 minutes or less. All right, I drive on Pinehurst pretty regularly. There's been those missing sections. I asked Pete, Pete gave me some history on it from Brian, who I actually know. And there is some issue with the storm drain.
Yes.
What I am trying to get clarity on, or just asking how maybe we can be helpful, formally or informally, getting the storm drain repaired so that people are not driving the wrong way down the road because half of the road is paved.
So, yes, so on Pinehurst, as far as I know, it's just that one section that's unpaved, correct?
correct.
Yes. And then the little cut throughs, but they're not gonna do those too. You know,
Yeah,
the
they'll
turnarounds,
do
median
that,
cuts.
whatever. Yeah, so it's my understanding, I've been talking with James Caldwell, who handles that for the city. And I believe he told me last week that it'd be, because some things came up, that someone reprioritized things for him, and it'd probably be 2 weeks before he got to the Pinehurst, which, that was last week, so we're talking about next week. I've not talked to him since then to get an update on where he is. So last I talked with him, it would likely be next week before he can get to it to even look at it and to analyze it and see what the problem is.
So let me say this, they looked at it in November again in December, they ought to have it analyzed by now.
Well, no, they looked at some other and fixed some other areas.
They fixed the area just east of there,
That's right.
but then they went back and that was finding from where.
So I think next week is.
The last I was told, yes.
What about the other, the one on Quinn, the two on Quinn, whatever, the sinkhole on Quinn?
So at Quinn at Persimmon, it's, I believe that is a sanitary sewer issue. And I don't have any information from Jackson Water, as far as when that would be fixed.
Okay.
And then,
At the end of Quinn and Moody,
I'm not aware.
right, if you go to Quinn and come to Moody, on the other side, there's a section in there that the mill, they didn't have to do, and I don't know what it's about.
I'm not aware of that. Now, I do know that they're paving today on Bellevue, and Bellevue and Quinn, that they've milled that, and so they'll eventually get to that as they come down Bellevue. I'll have to check on the end of Moody.
Bellevue, anybody that hasn't seen it, Bellevue is one of those areas where there's 150 feet of raw dirt, so when you build it, it's Glacier Family, some big sections over there.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, we've already paved it, but the intersection of Whitworth and Fortification, after we paved, a sinkhole appeared there.
No, sir, that sinkhole appeared 6 months before you painted it.
okay?
Where Whitworth runs into fortification?
No, that's another area. No, I'm sorry, I read the wrong one. Moody and Whitworth.
Moody Whitworth in the interchange.
Yeah, intersection. After we paved it, a sinkhole appeared there, so it, I don't have any, information on that as well. But that's been paved, but it happened after we.
It's been paved, but now there's.
Now, there's a lot, so if I don't really know, how that needs to be addressed. I don't know if we want to include that in our project, because then that would be more time and more money for them to go dig up, something that we haven't accounted for.
Do we know if it's a storm sewer or a sanitary sewer?
I don't,
Can we find that out?
Yes.
Because that's the question, whether the city or the
yes.
Jackson Water
Yeah.
needs to fix it.
Whitworth fortification is not part of, it's on fortification, it's not part of our project. That is storm sewer. I do know
Now,
that.
that storm sewer, that's a leftover from when they did fortification years ago, and it's been there for a year.
A while, yes.
And it's going to cause a wreck, but the city has to deal with it.
Yep, yeah, it is.
It's a real hassle.
So that's the four that I had of areas, with issues. So really, as far as I know, the only unpaved that, is the section on Pinehurst is storm sewer. At Quinn at Persimmon is sanitary sewer.
Right. The guys that are doing the concrete curves over in Woodland Hills,
Mhm.
they're dumping their debris into the catch basin drains.
They are,
Go there, go look at them.
okay?
They're filled with mud and then there's concrete stuff on top and there's whatever. They had those storm drains cleaned out by Lock Ward after the paving was done. So the last 3 or 4 months, Lock Ward cleaned them all out. They're now piled full of mud and concrete.
Okay. I'll take a look at it.
Now, this is the same situation. If you remember, way back yonder on Pinehurst, where there were 2 big old humps of concrete curb stuck down in the catch basin. And the concrete guy said, this was before we had all that, and said they didn't do it. But I don't know how a piece of concrete curb ended up in the catch basin.
Okay.
And I said the same thing with Bill.
Yes.
Say that if this issue would, really is a contractor's problem. So they need to repair it because they caused the problem.
Yeah, and I've looked at it and, the email that I got that you were copied on, they're filled with mud and not millings. I'm not sure how I'm not sure how that,
I'm not sure whether the ones in Bellhaven, I can't say whose side that's on, whether it's contractor or other. I can tell you that I went and looked this morning at one over at Woodland Hills, and with them having been cleaned out after the paving was done, which is before the curb and gutter was done. And some of it might be where they tore out the curb and gutter, rainwater carried mud down in there, the mud's in there, and now there's concrete rubble and stuff on top of that mud.
I'm gonna take a look at it.
We'll also look at 2 or 3 catch basins over there. Now, I know they get paid X number of dollars per catch basin. They repaired 2 of them on one side and down on the back. The other, one of them you can see through on the other side where they didn't do it. So
Where is this?
it's, you go into Woodland Hills, get up there by the castle, take a left.
Okay.
Go down that street, on your right across from Bert Yerger's house. Mary worked at Yerger's house. About 3 or 4 days. Jonathan Lee, what's the address over there?
130 Woodland Circle, right in that block. And then just down the hill, there's a Tudor house sitting way back off the road. It's probably the worst offender.
There's a couple of them. Yeah, and there might be others. Those are just the 2 that we looked at. But those 2, the catch basins, they have rebuilt. They didn't whole rebuild. The other half's not even there.
Okay. I'll take a
Now
look.
then, if you go and look at those catch basins, kind of take a look at the rest of them around too. There's a bunch of piled up concrete 2 or 3 yards, loose concrete. I believe they'll go back and burn that up because they have everywhere else. Oh, the curb and gutter people told them that wasn't their job.
Okay.
You'll see it right by the catch basin.
Okay.
And the same thing with the Billhaven area, even if it's mud, although the Billhaven Association folks say it's actually milling that's in the blocking. But even if it's mud, it's their responsibility to actually control the runoff when it rains. during construction, so.
I understand that, but
I don't hate,
I have a hard time believing that those inlets, some of them are completely filled with mud, got that way just from
yeah.
the week or two that from Twin Oaks Mill, and we had a 3-inch rain in a 24 or less hour period. I don't believe that was all because of our contractors, because, I mean, part of the milling, they have cleanup crews that come by and sweep it up, so I'm sure some milling did, but I just, do what?
May have contributed to it, but not.
Right, I just can't, yeah, and we have no evidence, we popped the tops, I have pictures. I can get them, they can dig out the inlet, they can open the inlet and dig out what's there, but I have a feeling that it's a systemic problem with the storm sewer, as it is in a lot of the city of Jackson. It's that we have a lot of broken pipes.
That's not runoff concrete inside that curb and gutter.
Yeah, there's fresh concrete in those sewers.
Okay, well, I'll take a look at it, but also it may just be, I'm gonna take a look at it and I'll take up, but they spray that curing compound on top that's white, and then, if that got washed off, it would turn existing mud into what looks like concrete.
I'm looking at concrete rubble from.
Okay,
Okay.
No, we'll get it.
That's a catch basin that they fixed the other half out.
Okay, I'll take, yeah, we'll get it taken care
There's a
of.
couple of those, just,
Okay,
And even with the Bellhaven, I would suggest if you talk to the Bellhaven Association folks, they might have pictures similar to what Pete has, because they swear that they clean all the storm drain, and after this is like, so I don't know if it's only mud, or there's also some debris from construction that's involved in this.
okay.
So make sure that the city does not do things that really is not their responsibility.
Okay.
move adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.